Hello, and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed, and we are in perhaps one of the greatest books ever written. It is amazing. Now, I have adjusted my audio to make it sound nicer. I do this all the time, but yeah, I'm trying to make it sound the best possible. So hopefully it sounds good today. But it's not important how it sounds unless the material is worthwhile. So the material, let's review what we've been reading. We have, last time we discovered a new class of interpreters. Now, our job as human beings, we have been learning time and time again, is to master understanding, to learn the art of the dialectic, which allows us to follow step by step, together in conversation or together with yourself, step by step, following questions that can even be predefined, that will lead you to a conclusion of truth and understanding. Now, of course, while the steps might be predefined because they reflect patterns of reality, we can artfully adjust them to meet the needs of the person we're talking to if we are talking with someone else as a dialectician. So, this will take us from belief or ignorance to understanding. But actually, that's not entirely correct, because there are two kinds of different dialectics that address those two cognitive functions. The dialectic proper is applied to ideas that exist eternally, like self, and the elements of reality such as beauty and justice, if you want a just world. That's the dialectic of philosophy. Real philosophy. That's the development of understanding. But at the same time, as you go through that, you will face blocks. There are times when you will find yourself confused in a way that doesn't make sense, or you'll make conclusions and you won't want to accept those conclusions, or you undermine yourself or the activity as well as the conclusions. There are many ways of blocking your progress through the dialectic. Am I a little bit quiet? Let me just bump my volume up a little bit more. I think we should be good like this. Is that too much? Now it's too loud. Maybe here. Is here a good amount of volume? Or 12. 12. How much volume? How much? I think this one's okay. Anyway, let's not get distracted with OBS. Alright, let's stick with this one and let's see how we go. So, we will face blocks as we progress along the logos. Therefore, we need to take a pause and jump into a different dialectic. Well, it's always the dialectic because that's how reason works, but a dialectic specifically used to uncover the root cause of that block. Why are you telling yourself you are a bad noodle or a small bean and you can't do it? Why are you undermining your own understanding? Why are you being distracted with these random thoughts and tangents that you haven't decided to think about, but they seem to come up in mind? What we have been seeing is these kinds of blocks are necessary in a just universe, because the whole reason you've reincarnated is to address some image of yourself that you have been identified with. You spend your life identifying with an image of yourself that you call you. It's the lead character in your daydreams, in your night dreams, in your fantasies and tangents. It's not a movie of Tom Cruise, it's a movie of you, but it ain't you. It's an image. It's an image that you have identified with since childhood. So our lives become a kind of entrenching in ignorance. We become further and further entrenched in this idea of ourself, and the surrounding false beliefs we get from our family clan in childhood, causing our blocks and problems, but becoming more and more entrenched in our problems, limiting our use of mind, understanding, reflection, and insight more and more, making us less creative, making us less intelligent, making us more stupid, making us more brainwashed and more zombie-like. That's human life. And you know this because if you've ever met an old person, they are very entrenched in their stupid beliefs, to the point where you can even see it written in the lines in their face, because the image of yourself comes with a mask, comes with a way of functioning and a way of being, a way of holding yourself, and yes, even physical ailments or illnesses. This is what happens unless we realize we are here to specifically discover that false belief of the self that's the cause of our problems, and learn a specific skill and art because it's a skill that benefits the subject, skill and art needed to discover, surface, remove that false image of yourself. If so, then you are using the dialectic called philosophical midwifery, and you are doing your job. Hooray for you. Of course, you won't be able to surface the blocks that you need to apply midwifery to unless you are doing that first dialectic, the one that is applied to truth. So the dialectic for truth surfaces your blocks, allowing you to do the activity of the dialectic to remove what's false. The intelligible, or the apprehendable and rational and universal and beneficial, all these words make up the word intelligible. The intelligible paradigm that you follow in the dialectic that benefits all is called the logos. Just as the false beliefs or the sick reasoning and sick behavior you act out when you are in your problem or your false image is called the pathologos. So, removing the pathologos and mastering the logos, that's what we're here for. Isn't that neat? One activity, two activities, one skill. It's a win-win.
It's a win.
It's a win. It's a win. It's a win.
It's a win-win. Isn't that neat? And as we are seeing that this dialectic is not only the paradigm for learning and growth and rational conversation, the opposite of debate. Why? Well, because debate is a reflection of your own beliefs. You come into a debate with all your own stupid ass beliefs in your head from childhood you've never reflected on, and you're forced to fight someone to defend them. So someone asked me today, didn't philosophers do debate? No, the people who did debate, Socrates called philodoxias, lovers of opinions. Because debate is about yelling your opinions at someone else's face, or abusing language to try and win. It's not mutual, it's not friendly, it's not fair, it's unjust. And you walk away more entrenched in the stupid ass opinions you came in with to begin with. Which of course is the cause of our suffering. And as we just said, and even our physical ailments as we get more and more entrenched in those false beliefs. And of course, look to the people who do disastrous things in the world. Are they motivated by the beliefs that they have? And the more entrenched, the more closed-minded and sadistic they become? Makes you wonder. So the opposite of debate. Debate is philodoxia, lover of opinions, or philonikos, lover of fighting. It's not friendly. It's not true philos, true friendship or love. And it's not wisdom. It's the opposite. So that's where we are in our world. We are taught to debate stupid opinions, causing the sufferings of individuals and the further entrenchment in suffering and ignorance individually. And then when a tyrant comes along, be them a priest or a politician who speaks for the divine or speaks for the laws, all they have to do is reflect your own false beliefs or pathologos, and you get something called the awakening of the tyranny of the mindless masses. I think I said it even better in the book. Awakening the tyranny of the masses, the mindless masses. We call them zombies because we have fun.
I'm cute. Like, it's cutie pie. Making ice cream's a good and courageous thing.
Don't be disgusting. The problem is that you can't reason someone out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into.
See, that's us having fun.
Here we go.
I have to search for it. Search. Tyranny? Unleashing the tyranny of the mindless many. Mindless many. So that's the thing. So not only do we have a responsibility to learn this art for ourselves, but to be good citizens, because we have to recognize that there is a universal paradigm of understanding called the Logos. There is a skill of acting according to it called the dialectic, so that we can demand every single politician and person who speaks for the divine or guru has it. If you don't, you are just going to play out your tyranny of the mindless many, your pathologos. So it's okay to say, well, I'm not the smartest person in the world. I'm not the cleverest. I'm not the most even-tempered. I can't hold on to the Logos as good as some people, but that's okay. I also can't dunk like Wembanyama. I can't shoot three-pointers like Stephen Curry. I can't run as fast as Usain Bolt. But I can demand that Usain Bolt race in the 100-meter finals and not Donald Trump. Ironically, his sexism was on show when there was some woman who came, I think, 5th in her swimming race, and someone who came 3rd was a trans athlete, and she complained, and she became a speaker at some Republican conference, and Donald Trump said, Donald Trump, the most unfit person you've ever seen in your life, I could beat you in a swimming race, this female athlete, because I'm a man. And as is the nature of belief, all of the believers have to accept the lie, because that's what belief is. You have to accept a limitation to be a part of the family clan or the group clan. No way in hell could that person swim faster than that female athlete, even though she came 5th in her race. Doesn't matter. She would kick his ass. But that's what it means to be a believer. To display, because belief can't actually improve or get to truth or help anyone, and it doesn't bring about the experience of knowledge like Logos does. Accepting the conflict within yourself as you play along with a lie, and inflicting that injustice on others as you hurt others, or sadism, becomes a mark of knowledge. So that addiction to hurting people as what it means to be a believer or a knower, or knower for belief, is the sadism that we see playing out in the fascists and religious leaders and the billionaires. All this is from the book. Oh my God, what a banger. So, 2 activities: following the Logos to truth. Now, what's interesting about that is, yes, you will surface the blocks you need in a just world to address your pathologos. So you have to be doing both activities. You can't be doing either of them separately. But if you do both, you'll be able to follow the Logos all the way to truth. And you can continue to develop your understanding of whatever the topic is: justice, beauty, truth, reality, even Logos itself. Because it's actual learning. Well, belief is stagnant. This is what you have to believe. You've been told it when you were 3 years old, and you should die thinking the same thing. Jesus is king, or women suck, or immigrants are scary, or whatever. It's stagnant. There's no development. Understanding, you can always find new insights and connections that you can make about the topic through understanding. So it's the model of teaching, or the Dharma. While the pathologos is stagnant. It's a slop.
That's weird that you think much. Unbelievable sluts these days.
Yes, these days.
It's a total shit show.
It's a total shit show. That's the pathologos, or belief. Now, if you continue along the Logos, you will eventually, because as you master the art, just as you master any language, you begin to see through it and function through it. This is why the people who, like the establishment Democrats who set the stage for the fascists to take over, this is what they say. They say, there is no... Wait a minute. I have two ideas in my mind. Let me get them right in my head. Right. There is nothing wrong with people having beliefs so long as you don't act on them. You can be a Nazi, so long as you don't think, or so long as you don't think Nazi thoughts or do Nazi things or approach people in Nazi ways. Of course, this is a way of saving belief. Once you realize that beliefs are the cause of human harm and suffering, there is an impulse within the soul to save your beliefs. Well, not my beliefs, or I don't want to rock the boat, so can we just make it so beliefs are good? Everyone's belief wins? And they'll say, oh yeah, any belief is fine so long as you don't act on it or see through it, which is insane because that's exactly what beliefs are. So it's like saying, oh yeah, you can be an English speaker so long as you don't speak English. Doesn't make sense. So we have to be aware that this everything is nothing, or nihilism, or everything is just a perspective or opinion, or the category of cognitive function we have as the fifth level, below even belief, a mass of difference, is stupid and harmful and creates the conditions for fascists to take over. Because no one likes that. No one likes the modern Democrats saying, what can we do? Because then a fascist will say, I will save you from the tyranny of capitalism. That's literally what Trump ran on. Of course, he was a liar, a fascist, a believer, a belief-based cognitive functioning person. And so, of course, that's the unleashing of the tyranny of the mindless many, or the cry of doing one's duty. I will save you. Also, there's the two things. I will save you from the tyranny that you're facing, or you have a duty to king or country to follow me. That's the cry to tyranny. And of course, the conditions for that is people saying, there is no right or wrong. Let's just debate opinions. So, as we learn the logos, we, because this is how it works, function through it and see through it. Just as you begin to see through skateboarding, get skater eye as you learn skateboarding, or English as you learn English. So as you begin to see and function through logos, it can become your way of being. You won't want to do debates at all. You won't be interested in gossip at all. You'll want to be interested in looking at things that are true and eternal, and interacting with people, not by shouting your opinion in their face, but together in a friendly way, step by step, following reason. Everything else will seem boring. And I used to have a drop from the Oracle saying that's boring, but I don't think I've got it anymore.
Whore.
Okay, we have her saying whore instead. So you'll start to see through your logos. Now, you are developing your understanding, which is what we're here to do. But of course, understanding is just that third stage. So I mentioned a second ago that there's that fifth stage of cognitive functioning. Let me find the 5 on the board. This is all from the book. None of this is my opinion. This is just in the book. Just reading and reviewing. Here we go. Here it is in the board. So, the mass of difference. Everything is nothing. Everything is personal opinion statements. Everything is relative. That's number 5. No model, no understanding. The modern Democrats. No one likes that. So the fascists come over and say, oh, I'll take care of things. Belief-based cognitive function is number 4. Understanding is what we're moving into. We need to cross that line of ousia, self-reflection, and logos, following the logos. That's the dialectic. Now, as we start to see through understanding and develop this art and skill of understanding, eventually there is a jump. So long as we're not afraid of losing ourselves, because we have removed that fear by removing our false beliefs about ourselves, we can be open to that higher cognitive jump from understanding to knowledge. In Greek, it's called nous. Its state of being is ousia. It knows itself all at once. It's also the spiritual experience. So metaphysics or true philosophy is the study of that. The experience of that is spirituality. So all spiritual traditions all yogas are about having that experience, which makes a experience and understanding complete. So many spiritual traditions don't have the logos, and many understanding traditions don't have the experience. So this makes this the full or the paradigm of spirituality. So there's that cognitive jump into knowing. In other words, if you follow the logos far enough, you will reach truth. That's the dialectic. In fact, Socrates' teacher Parmenides said just that. You won't find truth unless you master the dialectic. Now, of course, we can use that skill of dialectic to remove our beliefs, of course, but also to understand even that experience, to realize that there must be something beyond that. That's the movement from 2 to 1, the self. The know thyself, the ultimate spiritual experience, or experience isn't the right word, but goal. The ultimate spiritual state of self. Being yourself, authentically. You reach that through the logos, you follow the logos through the dialectic, you also see the problem of slop people, mass of difference, establishment Democrats. There is no understanding. Let's have a debate, bro. You'll see through the news media who tries to promote this. Hey, don't ever solve. Hey, welcome, Dennis. Don't ever solve the problems in our world through understanding and dialectic. Just have a debate. Just pretend that every opinion is okay. Jewish opinion, Nazi opinion, Christian opinion, Muslim opinion, fascist opinion, they're all the same. Who cares? That's why they have debate shows on... I'm thinking more often to killing myself. Oh, okay. That sucks. So, debate shows are about debating personal opinions. That's a training of us to accept, to attack our own mind and understanding, to see that we have a purpose here, to develop understanding. That understanding we can use to address our false beliefs, such as our friend is expressing about himself in chat. Solve our problems, and also, we can understand number 5, the problem with relativism. We can understand belief. Number 4, the cause of human problems and suffering. We can understand understanding itself to master the dialectic. We can understand the nature of reality, the eternal nature of our soul, our highest state of mind. Number 2, or knowledge. And we can understand that this much must even have a cause to understand the self. So understanding is our tool. Understanding you can only do in the physical world through time with a body. Therefore, it's the reason for our reincarnation, to develop understanding. And while the self is beyond experience, it is still can be understood. So we can take understanding with us. So the art, or the new subject or skill or art we're here to master, is philos, which means love. Philodianoia, the love of understanding. That's the meaning of life. So we have seen for ourselves with understanding by reading this book that is a fucking banger. Dear Jesus, this book bangs. It bangs so hard, dear Susie. So hard, dear Susie. So, that's what we're here for. And that's what we're doing. We're learning how to read because, again, reading also requires us to find when we are not reading what's there. We're projecting our beliefs or missing what's there, our blind spots. But if we do that, if we follow the dialectic along logos, We will get the clues to removing our false beliefs, but also we can go all the way to knowledge and beyond to the self. So that's the path, that's the Dharma, that's the spiritual tradition, that's the single spiritual paradigm, it's the single learning paradigm, and it's the single paradigm for psychotherapy. So you can say psychotherapy, this isn't the model of psychotherapy. It might even be more accurate to say psychotherapy is one aspect of philodianoia or philosophy. Because solving problems is the domain of the soul, because all human beings function through their psyche or state of mind. It's the cause of our problems, therefore, and our excellence. Therefore, the study of the soul, you could call it eschatology, but that's a stupid fancy word. Let's just call it philodianoia, or true philosophy. Only because no one knows what philodianoia is yet. We've got to get our marketing team onto that. So as we have, therefore, on the board, we talked about this last time, I think. Review of last time. We could do a dialectic on dialectic itself. The dialectic applications, spirituality and learning and evolution is the dialectic on the logos or what's true. Philosophy, removing problems or psychotherapy is the dialectic applied to the false. That's philosophical midwifery. You won't be able to completely do both or either unless you're also doing dream analysis, which you unpack the meaning of your dreams through the dialectic. And of course, an essential part of this tradition is sharing it with others. There seems to be an essential component in recognizing your own humanness through seeing the humanness of others as they go through that process. And of course, we need to keep the tradition alive. So sharing it is mythology. Or theology. Theology is using heroes and gods to talk about these very metaphysical principles that we understand through the dialectic. So, is the dialectic a paradigm of psychotherapy, or is psychotherapy one of the four aspects of the dialectic? As is spirituality, as is dream analysis, and as is storytelling, or mythology, or theology. So we can combine all of the human activities that we're here for, we're here to master in one single art, the dialectic. And because it's the following of the logos through understanding, we have to have love for it, otherwise no one's going to make you do it. But if you love it because it's cool and it kicks ass, it's fun, you meet the best people, and you're able to see the deepest beauty in those people. Philo means love, and dianoia means understanding. So philodianoia. Hooray, 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 hooray. So what? So that's neat. We can solve all human problems individually and collectively, simply by understanding its root cause. And in doing that understanding, we're also benefiting ourselves because we're learning the art of understanding. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
So hooray. Hang on a second. Last time I checked my watch, a video watch maybe, that has access to the internet, we still have human problems. What's the deal? If Socrates' teachers Parmenides and Diotima knew this and taught Socrates this, a woman master of the logos, interestingly enough, and Homer talked about it in his story of Achilles and Odysseus in the Iliad and the Odyssey, and Penelope, the ideal woman, the archetypal hero for women. Why do we still have problems? Well, because we killed Socrates. Or in other words, while this is true and it's necessary and it's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
The issue is, well, we're still humans. In other words, as we learn the way of solving human problems, we have to recognize we are humans. In other words, we are the human beings trying to learn the process of solving problems learning the process of solving human problems, meaning we're gonna be in them problems. Problems are only problems because they block our highest functioning. Losing your keys isn't a real problem, it's just a one-off. And not being able to eat all the ice cream isn't a problem because it's not good for you to eat all the ice cream.
They're secretly turned on by it.
Even if you're turned on by eating ice cream. That's inappropriate, Emma. That's very bad, Emma.
Is this chat full of dumb Hans?
Terrible soundboard drops today. But funny for me. As we do this, we have to recognize we're in it ourselves. So there is a kind of a catch-22 happening. Meaning as we share what humans need to solve their problems, it's not the same as going to, if you're a BMX rider and some BMX manufacturer said, hey, you know that problem you have where you do a nollie kickflip and you hit yourself in the nuts? I found a way of designing handlebars which doesn't hit yourself in the nuts when you do a nollie flip 360. You'd be like, hooray. You'd say,
Making ice cream's a good and courageous thing.
yeah, making this change is a good and courageous thing. Not the same with human problems. Because you're fixing a bike in this example. But with this, you're fixing your soul. You're fixing your psyche or mind or soul. You're the bike. Meaning, to solve the problems that block you from understanding what you need to be better, will be blocked from the problem that blocks you from understanding the things that you need to be better. Because this is what makes you better, meaning this is the thing that is going to most block every single human being who's ever been born. A block is a block to your most meaningful functioning. You don't get nervous around the girl you're not interested in, but the one that's really beautiful or is really meaningful to you, that's when your problems come out. When you need to apply for the big job or be really good for the test or something, that's when your problems come out, when it's significant. This is the most significant, the most important, the meaning of life. So this will be the hardest thing for human beings to see, despite how obvious and simple it is and how obvious and simple this text makes it. This book, kick-ass book, makes it. That's the issue. The thing that is doing the solving is the thing that's being solved. In other words, it's suffering from those same blocks. You're trying to cure the zombie virus while being infected with the zombie virus, which means it requires a lot of courage and character. There are some people who have been bitten by a zombie virus and hide the fact they've been bitten. I'm not bitten by a zombie. Says, who was given that insult? I don't know. It's a funny insult that's been floating around at the time of recording. You seem like the kind of person who would hide his zombie bite from other people in a zombie apocalypse. It takes courage to say, yeah, I've been bitten, and it's gonna make it harder. All I want to say is brains, brains, brains. All I want to do is find a situation where I can eat brains with impunity. That's the pathologos. It limits your functioning intelligently. It keeps you on a train tracks of action. Your whole life becomes try to find situations where you can play out your problem with impunity, leadership positions, accumulation of wealth, establishing a racist or fascist or sexist state so you can inflict it on women or foreigners or poor people. That's the nature of human problems. We are zombies seeking this. But the best people have the courage and character to say, even though I have these blocks, I am willing to learn what it takes to cure the virus. That's what we do here. That's why I don't have so many. One of the reasons why I don't have a lot of followers yet. Until people see how awesome we have fun here.
Making ice cream's a good and courageous thing.
What a piece of garbage that was. That's a crazy one. Okay, go ahead, man.
Okay, we'll go ahead. So, that's the issue. So what? So this book is saying, hey, by the way, when a new truth is presented, especially this one, there will be a series of negative responses that humans will have to it. Therefore, me too. Hey man, does life get easier? Why do I have 3 chatters today? That's more than ever. Welcome, chatters. Yes, so what we're doing is learning the technique that we are here to learn to understand our human problems, understand the cause of our human problems, free ourselves from our problems, giving you an open, free state to be yourself. And also, once free of your problems and suffering, you can say, hang on a second, if what was causing me to be suffering was a false image of self and reality and goodness and justice and beauty, well, now that I've let go of those beliefs, what's the truth of the self? So, free of our problems, we can apply the dialectic to the truth, which we're doing as we read, allowing you to experience yourself as eternity, overcoming your fear of death, of course. Bliss, the greatest experience, beauty itself. But of course, we want to understand that there has to be something experiencing even bliss, the self. So the self that you really are transcends even the divine, the highest experience. Human problems are that shadow of that. So while we can have a model of the highest self, the one self, or the good self that is independent and transcends everything while still being able to experience things, that's the logos. The cause of everything, that's you. You are the greatest noodle and the biggest bean. It's the self that reflects itself into the brilliant light of being. That's the spiritual experience. That's experiencing the logos or reality or understanding reality all as a oneness, as a whole. So that's the separation of your soul from your body and recognizing that your consciousness or mind is eternal, overcoming the fear of death, of course. But it's this pure intelligence that turns upon itself in the activity of Usia, that means self-reflection, and uses itself as the model or paradigm for the creation of the physical world, and that's where we wake up. We wake up in the physical world after having been raised in a family, getting the family clan beliefs that cause our problems, and then we have to ask the question, holy shit, why am I here? I'm in this video game. What's my goal? And what's the skills that I can use? In other words, you're a Mario, you got to learn that you've got a jump button and a fireball button, and your goal is to save the princess. That's what we do. Can someone with a lot of problems just let it go and act nonchalant? Yes, you can let it go, but you won't be acting nonchalant, you'll be free, and you're seeing clearly, and you're being more authentically yourself. But there's a skill that's required to do that. That's what we learn, the dialectic. So as you find yourself a Mario person or a soul in a body, with the ignorant beliefs about yourself and images of yourself that you identify with from childhood, you hopefully come across a stream like this that says, hey, you're supposed to. The whole reason you reincarnated is to address a false belief about yourself. And that's why you picked this lifetime and this family in this culture, in this part of history. So this is the physical world that we see through our senses. As we apply the dialectic to surfacing our false images and beliefs and understanding its causes and conditions to free ourselves from it, and we can use that freedom to understand the true nature of reality, we are preparing our soul to experience it. That's the spiritual experience. Everything that we've been learning step by step through the stages of the dialectic or understanding, we see all at once, and it kicks ass. It's awesome.
The primary purpose of peanuts is not to murder, it's to eat for sustenance.
Right, so that's the primary purpose of peanuts that Emma from the Majority Report wants to tell us about. But the primary purpose of your life is to learn dialectic and verify your understanding all at once in this experience. But also, we have to even understand that, because it's still an experience, you're going to come out of it. So you want to reach the self, which is independent and transcendent. That's the highest term in philosophy, the one self or the good self. So, it's a win-win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
But people won't want to fucking hear it. Screw you. I know better. My beliefs about self, my religious beliefs, my parents' beliefs, my family beliefs, my way of being, my problems are real. And how dare you say that there is a meaning of life? How dare you say problems can be solved? I was told we're all irrational and mankind is just savage and the best you can do is give up. Who are you to say that those things are wrong? So that's going to be our reaction, because we are human beings ourselves. A block is only a block because it blocks the logos. That's why it's called a pathologos. Do I have it written on the board? So if this is the logos, then you're not going to want to hear it. So what? So we're going to give up? No. We need to find a way around all of our blocks and find a way of communicating with this with other people who might find it hard to listen. So how do we do that? Well, this book is talking about this principle. As a principle, because you've been reincarnated means you've got some problems. Otherwise, you wouldn't have chosen to reincarnate. Again, this is something that we have ourselves come to an understanding of through the dialectic to a rational, necessary conclusion. But again, it's still a hypothesis, it's still a likely if, until you experience what it's like to die and reincarnate and verify it for yourself. Fortunately, you don't have to wait until you kick the bucket, because that's what dialectic is for, or yogas, or mushrooms, to verify what happens when you die. Now, you got to make sure you got some understanding in your back pocket, otherwise you won't know what you're experiencing, and you better make sure you've removed your false beliefs, otherwise you'll have a bad trip.
That's weird that you think that.
I think it's awesome.
So, how do we share this with share this with other human beings? Because we're practicing to be a dialectician. Meaning it's not just something we learn, we have to practice it. Find good people, find top people.
Imagine people changing their positions and improving for the better.
That we can talk to about this and help them, and at the same time as we're helping them, we're practicing the art. We're practicing it, we're ingraining it into our soul, and just like learning a language, eventually you can see through it. So how do we share it with the world? Because sharing it with the world is one of those aspects. The dialectic, should probably write it better here. The dialectic, you don't just want to apply it to the truth, which is what Plato and Proclus and Plotinus have done. Dialectic applications or aspects. Yeah, can't delete. There we go. What would we say? Dialectic activities? Say activities. Or aspects. Aspects is pretty silly. Let's just say activities. So, we can't take a part of it. Now that's one of the categories. If we're here to learn this, There are people who will just reject it completely. The most ignorant, the most fascist, the most fiercely caveman-like or zombie-like loyal to their family clan. They'll completely reject the new and become more staunchly entrenched in their beliefs. Like debaters. Debate does that to people. Now, if you're a thinking being, you will think, hang on a second, if that's the worst, then wouldn't the best be to just completely accept the truth and completely, as our friend said, let go or abandon or sacrifice my false beliefs? I don't care if it means my parents were living a lie. I'm smart enough to know that, hey, just because I grew up with them doesn't make them geniuses. My next door neighbor's kids thought their parents knew everything and their parents were stupid. I can see that because I don't have Stockholm syndrome. The people who live across the street, the people whose religion is Scientology, they're crazy. The Muslims are crazy, then why can't my religion be crazy? In other words, I've got too much courage and integrity to say, well, my beliefs are the right ones. My parents who pretended to know about reality, played king priest of the house, they were just as fucked up as everyone else's parents. Especially now that I'm a parent myself, maybe. I don't have kids, but maybe you do. I know that I don't know anything. But when I see my kids really being themselves, it threatens my way of being, and I feel compelled to crush them. Or to say, not in my house. Don't you see what will happen? If you be your authentic self, people will take advantage of you. So I'm going to put a stop to it. I've recognized that because I've got courage and integrity. So, if the worst is to reject the new understanding in favor of the old beliefs and traditions and ways of being of your family clan, wouldn't the best be what we should be aiming for? To completely reject, let go of the old in favor of adopting and integrating the new? Yes.
Do a poggers.
Do a poggers. Yes, that rationally follows, doesn't it? But unfortunately, that's not something that most people... That's not how almost all human beings respond. Very, very, very few people see that and respond in that way. It's not an insult. It's not a blame game. It's just, well, you've got beliefs. Beliefs block you from understanding. That's why it's a problem. That's why we still have Nazis. That's why we still have fucking capitalism. A 4-year-old could fix Everyone should have food in a house. Oh, but a capitalist thinks that we should have one person having all of the food in all of the house, and he can use that hoarding of the resources that he will never live in those houses. He will never eat that food, but he can fuck with people and feel big and powerful. No, a 4-year-old go, well, that's just terrible. Do you not have a heart? Why do we still have capitalism? Because we are not simply rational. We have our problems. So, but to be good beings and to have all aspects of the dialectic, we have to share it. Help the good people, maybe establish fun relationships, beneficial relationships, and put this out into the world so that just as I came across Pierre Grimes, and Pierre Grimes came across Socrates, and Socrates came across Parmenides and Diotima, so too, you will be someone who another person will come across. And you'll say, you know what? I get what you're feeling. I understand you're feeling down. In fact, I understand all possible ways of feeling and thinking you can be moving through. You're in this stage. I know what it's like, and I can understand what it's like. Here is the dialectic. Let me ask you some questions. First, get yourself curious. If you think you know everything and you're closed-minded, you're not going to be able to go through this. So find something that you're willing to talk about. Let me ask you some questions that can help you see your position, see understand it as part of a greater whole, and maybe move to the next stage. And then 20 years later, or 15 years later, or 5 years later, you run into that person again and they'll say, you know what? After that conversation, I didn't want to talk to you at all. I ran away from you. But that's the only conversation that has meaningfully addressed the issue that I had. I've tried everything and this was the only thing that helped me. So thank you. And I'm sorry for trying to punch you in the face for saying those things. And we will say, neat. Now, do you want to reflect on? And then they'll run away again. But maybe they'll come back. Now, not everyone's going to be like that, but that seems to be what people do. From personal experience. Why is that? Well, as we want to be able to share it with others, we need to recognize that there are these stages of responding to new truth. There are those that reject the new and keep the old. Closed-minded fascists. We could call them Nazis. That's not how you do their symbol, but I don't care. Religious folk. I don't care what you have to say. Or fundamentalists. What's the Jewish one? There we go. Muslim one. It's a star. Rejecting the new understanding and truth to be fiercely, violently, zombie-like, loyal to the old. They are the worst. Well, they function the worst way. So, but as a dialectician, we have to recognize you need the most help. So let's not give the keys or the nuclear weapons or all the money to the fascists or fundamentalists or religious folk, but let's have the smarter people, the more able to slam dunk like LeBron James or Wembanyama. Let's have them calling the plays, managing the resources, not the most ignorant and harmful, please, but those people will also recognize that these people are the most dangerous, well, potentially the most dangerous, and suffering the most. They need the most resources allocated to helping them reflect on their problems. They have done the worst injustices in their previous lifetimes, and they may be suffering the most internally. Look at the people in Trump's cabinet. They're pretty fucked, right? Look at the head guy of ICE. Look at the head. Like, he's really, like, he has like significant learning difficulties. And instead of having people in his life to help him develop intelligence, he's just projecting his anger in the most sadistic ways. Same thing for Trump. Probably a terrible upbringing, etc. So, the worst. Reject the new, keep the old. Now we have people like Paul, who was the guy quoted by modern Christians, who claims to speak for Jesus, but actually says, completely flips everything upside down. Screw understanding, just have belief, says Paul. Again, it's these fascists who then use religious belief to quote Paul and say, Jesus wants you to just believe. Don't read the book. Don't read the Adam and Eve story. You might find out that there are many gods. And this particular God is the liar with the problem. So don't have understanding. If you try to think for yourself, we will kick you out. That's Paul. So, claiming to speak for the new while rejecting the new to keep the old, or a wolf in sheep's clothing. So reject the new, pretend to speak for the new, but actually smuggle in the old. Now we have what we see happening with the modern Democrats as Mumdani introduces ideas of socialism, like actually helping people. Hey, people like that. The modern Democrats don't reject their old problems to follow the new. They will take a piece. Maybe I will take a piece of what Mumdani is doing and just do social media. So take a piece of the new as a patchwork for the old. The patching up an old coat. response to new truth. I like the dialectic, but I'm going to use it to convince people to follow Jesus. I like the dialectic, but I'm going to pretend, well, that's pretending, but I'm going to use a little bit of dialectic to get people on board with my Nazi views or something like that. The Kabbalah is an example. The Sephardic religious tradition coming across the work of Parmenides, which is the Logos and the dialectic. In fact, that's where we learn the dialectic, from Parmenides' conversation with Socrates, and making their own, or adding that to their tradition. Patchwork. 1, 2, 3. 4. We have someone like Mark, who sees what Paul is doing and spends his time rejecting Paul. The rejecter of the rejectors. Hey, that Paul guy was a fuckhead. Don't listen to him. Unfortunately, we don't listen to Mark, and instead they added this resurrection story at the end of Mark. The Gospel of Mark finishes with Jesus saying, "Why has God abandoned me?" So he hadn't recognized his own problem and was blaming God. That's the end. This rising from the dead nonsense was added hundreds of years later by the church. So that would be a rejecter of the rejecter of the rejectors. So whenever you have Easter, you go, you're a triple, you're a rejecter cubed. Paul rejected Jesus as talking about understanding and states of mind in favor of belief or faith. So Paul rejected Jesus. Mark rejected Paul, so rejecter of the rejectors. And Easter, with the eggs and the bunnies and the magically rising from the dead story, was the church rejecting Mark. So whenever you see a Christmas egg, you go, that's a rejection cubed. Rejecter of the rejecter of the rejecter. So that's funny. You have the supporter of the rejectors. So these are kind of responses. So this could be a subclass even, because the Gospel of John supports Paul. Saw that Mark was rejecting Paul. So the first couple of lines from John talk about the self, autos in the Greek, and logos. In the beginning there was the word. Nope, the word is logos. But after those first two sentences, he went straight into his problem. Because you got to do both. It's no good following the logos if you're not also addressing your beliefs. So, rejecter of the rejectors, supporter of the rejectors, and now we have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th category. Plato, Plotinus, Proclus, all of the Platonic philosophers that followed Socrates. Now, Aristotle is followed these guys, and Aristotle rejected even philosophy. That's materialism or Stoicism. Stoicism is just people using the language of Plato or Socrates, applying it only to the physical world. So except for Pierre Grimes, all of the philosophers I've seen on YouTube and all of the philosophers I've seen in academic philosophers are Aristotelian, which would be this one, claiming to speak for Socrates while actually suffering from his false beliefs about the physical world. That's Aristotle. But Plato, Plotinus, and Proclus follow Socrates. They advance certain parts, so they add to metaphysics, understanding of the realm of being, but they ignore other important parts. So we have some, like Plotinus talks about what it feels like to enter into the realm of being, or mind experiencing mind, minding mind. Plotinus, very poetic. You might like Plotinus if you like that stuff. We have Proclus, who nails down the dialectic. It's kind of a little bit vague. You have to do some work when you read it in the Parmenides, but Proclus nails it down. Socrates wrote a lot about, in the Republic, the dialectic, or in all of his books about the dialectic, and the significance of this, the brilliant light of being, or the idea of the good. So they're all adding to Socrates' tradition, but ignoring philosophical midwifery and dream analysis. Meaning when we killed Socrates, we lost the two most important activities of the dialectic, because those two are needed to solve problems. There's no use just having the truth, because what are you going to do when people fight back against you? Or you fight back against yourself? So, sixth category. And we want to, as dialecticians, recognize all of those and even hierarchically arrange these terms within an ordered set, because that's understanding, so that we can recognize people as we share this. Hey, you know there's a meaning of life? Hey, you know that you can overcome your problems? Hey, you know that mysticism isn't esoteric just for like monks? I know Webb and Yama went to the monks and to do Shaolin mysticism, but it's not special, like it's not secret. You can just understand it. And then they will either say, fuck you. They will say, oh yeah, I know all about that. Let me tell you how it's actually about what I think. They'll take a little bit as a patchwork. Then these people, or maybe they'll defend their friend who rejected what you said. Or they will get into certain parts of the dialectic, but they won't do midwifery and they won't do dream analysis. So you can recognize them. Oh, you're at that level. This is what you're doing. These are the possible reactions you could have had. Here's where you are. Maybe you want to move to a better one, or just take the whole. So we need to recognize that for ourselves and for others. That's one of the key aspects of the book. And last time we got that special sixth category. So that's where we are. A nice fun review. Nailing it down in our understanding, solidifying it in our soul, so that this we will take with us in every moment and in our spiritual experience and in our death, not all the other crap we grew up with. So this book is fighting a sea of ignorance from our culture and our family and stuff. So it's worth reviewing, worth remembering, worth talking about. And I hope some of the chatters that came in found that super interesting. But again, don't believe me, understand it for yourself. Take it, you piece it together, you build your dialectics. That's the practice of understanding. And carry them as hypotheses. You're going to have to test them to see if it's true. That's the significance of the dialectic. You don't believe anyone if you understand, and even your understanding you can confirm in direct experience. That's the significance of knowing, or this guy. This one here, the middle one. Plato and Proclus and Plotinus talk about. Understand you have to be here for a reason and your soul is immortal, but then prove it by seeing it. Understand there is a model of justice and beauty, but check it out. Go to the party yourself. That's the point. Well, that's not the point, that's part of it. So, don't believe anything I say, but get curious about something. Work to your understanding and be open-minded to the verification in direct insight. So that's what we're here for. Let's keep reading and have fun. So let's jump in. So we finished with this new member, Jesus. Let's call them a new member of the class of interpreters, people who respond to new truth. For clearly they advance certain parts of philosophy and ignore other important parts.
It's sad, and I'm sad for you.
Yes, Jesus, what you say is true, because what Proclus advanced was a beautiful exploration of metaphysics. Oh, yeah. So I mentioned the dialectic, but he did the triads and things, giving us that set of 12 gods that we play with. Remember these guys? Remember these bods? Oh, they probably shouldn't call them bods because they don't have bods, do they? These dudes? These bros?
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder, dude?
Dudes? These dudes?
Do a poggers.
We will. Here we go. The anagogic triad. Upward moving. Apollo and Aphrodite and Hermes, the god of dialectic. The vivific triad. The power of ousia and self-reflection. That elevates us, Demeter. The fact that this ousia is extended to all living beings, intelligent individuals. Hera, Zeus's wife. Artemis, the twin sister of Apollo. The principles needed to judge good births and bad ones, or philosophy and midwifery. The principles for the use of ousia with Apollo, Hermes, the dialectic. So those three are the ladies, the triadic gods of power, inspiration, enlivening. Something has to keep this all together. The preserving gods. Ares, the ousia that illuminates, ousia because it's being, illuminates physical bodies with power and strength, and an eternal ousia has a converting nature of those capable of receiving and turning about through it. So the power and strength for you to do the dialectic that will convert you as a bod through learning. Athena, a goddess of wisdom. So each of these is an activity and a power and a highest existence. So the activity in philosophy, or in the anagogic, upward moving, the activity. You can even say this is a triad. The activity triad is the anagogic triad. The power triad is the vivific triad. The being triad is the ruling triad. These guys. So triads of triads. This is all Proclus. Anyway, Athena is the intelligence and energy of ousia, keeping it all together. Power and purity of all nature. And then of course the ruling triad, Hephaestus, the blacksmith. The power of ousia that proceeds into activity that inspires generation in the physical realm. That's Hephaestus that inspires you to know thyself and get into this. Hephaestus. Poseidon is the cause of ousia's power and rules over all motion and generation. There's a principle of Poseidon that creates the movement and generation, and Hephaestus gives you the power to reach Zeus. Zeus is the source of all that exists, so the self, but it also has a functioning guided by the divine wisdom. So there's that understanding and knowing, 3 and 2, above crappy 4 beliefs and stupid 5 relativism slop. These two, guided by wisdom. So Zeus, guided by wisdom to take care of all living and non-living beings, taking care of our planet and the animals and the peoples. So this would be a standard for every spiritual and political leader. We have the opposite currently, but that's why we do this. To be a positive force of positive change in the world, so we can overcome problems and reach our destiny, highest purpose and goal, and reason for being. So, all of that was Proculus's beautiful exploration of our metaphysics. He also authored a divine vision of the elements of theology. Big ass book with like hundreds of principles of metaphysics in it. He opened up several of Plato's dialogues and certainly advanced the dialectic, as you said. So, I don't know, a lot of it's been burnt by the church, of course, but there are Proculus's commentaries on the Platonic dialogue, so he really goes into depth and talks about what's going on in this conversation that Plato wrote about Socrates having. That's Proculus. However, he did another great service. He showed the rational structure of his metaphysics matched and had exact correspondence with the Hellenic account of the gods. So joined the Hellenic, Homer, who did have dream analysis and midwifery, by the way, with these metaphysical principles, and that's what we just went through. Those were those 12 gods that we just played with. Of course, there are more. Those are the 12 mundane, or gods that have an effect on us in the physical world. Proculus. Yes, indeed. Proculus has a place of honor among us. It is clear that your followers went on even further to develop your way of doing philosophy, but mine ended soon after it became set in stone by the church. Jesus didn't want to write things down and establish institutions of authority. It was a living activity tradition through analogy, through parables to develop states of mind and being. That ended once the church said, well, here's what Jesus said. He wants you to give us all your money and do what we say and kill the people that we don't like.
A space wizard farted out the universe. All humans are inbred from a single pair of humans, not once but twice. If you're a naughty person, you get tortured eternally in a pool of lava by a vindictive genocidal deity who loves you.
So that's all Paul's garbage. Written in stone by the church. Not what Jesus said. I am interested in these followers of yours and would like to return to them after we have explored, a puzzling question that I have of your own philosophy. Have any of these later philosophers reached the final stage of your philosophy?
There's only two options at the end of an argument.
They're secretly turned on by it.
Yes. Did they reach the end of the argument and be secretly turned on by it? Says the people who live on my soundboard.
What a piece of garbage that was.
True. Did they reach the end? Have any of the later followers reached the final stage of your philosophy? Now, without having read further, I would guess maybe the author of this book, seeing as he brought back midwifery and dream analysis. The maybe? Is a maybe? Is a maybe? Wrong screen. Have any of these later philosophers reached the final stage of your philosophy? If not, could you explain where they still need to develop further, or what is needed to bring it to its fullness? Let's see what you are asking, says Socrates. It is not a simple task, but with truth as our guide, I must oblige you. Since the work that is the cornerstone of these followers of mine is Plato's Parmenides. Plato's Parmenides, giving us 9 or maybe 10 hypotheses that apply the dialectic to states of being, development, thinking, or map out the entirety of the dialectic that we can use to recognize all states of thinking, states of being, states of development within a hierarchical structure. And it's the Parmenides that was taken by the Kabbalah folks to the Sephardic tradition to create the Kabbalah. That's the patchwork. Parmenides is boss.
That's anti-feminist in some way.
Sorry. The Parmenides is girl boss.
Making ice cream's a good and courageous thing.
Okay. I need more sound drops. The whole point of having a random button is it's supposed to surprise me.
The primary purpose of peanuts is not to murder, it's to eat for sustenance.
I already know that about peanuts. That's not a surprise, Emma. Emma?
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
I'm so disgusted, Emma. So, the Parmenides is the cornerstone. I shall follow their lead and be guided by the same approach. We will need the last philosopher of the Athenian Academy, Damascus. Now, we have been throwing around a bunch of words about philosophers. So pretty much, we could actually put this on the board. Might be worth putting this on the board. Who are the big names? So you don't get confused or worried or put off by all these big names we're throwing around. Let's make it simple. We have the first... What color? What color? The first philosopher that we have text from. We have text from. That's Xenophanes. He gives us that koan we can carry with us. So while we master the parts or the differences, that's philosophy or the dialectic, we can, like Hercules, have a state of mind where we stay in the whole of being. So you can be functioning in Hades while feasting with the gods in heaven. So how do you maintain a state of being of the whole? Well, one thing you could do is Xenophanes' question. Carry this question like a koan. Carry this question. So what is the whole of seeing, hearing, and thinking? Whole of seeing, hearing, and thinking. That's all we have from him right now. Carry it if you want. Now we have Socrates as teachers. Actually, we have before this, we have the Homer. The background. Background tradition. That's Homer. With the Iliad and Odyssey. Odyssey. That's not how you spell it. Odyssey. 2 E's? I don't know. Who cares? Giving us the heroes we've been talking about. Especially Penelope, the ideal woman, Hercules, Achilles, and Odysseus. So the first philosopher is Xenophanes. Then we have Socrates' teachers. That's Parmenides, which is just who we are talking about right now. Parmenides. And Diotima, a lady. a lady master of the logos and dialectic, Diotima of Manitanea. Diotima. And then we have Socrates. He is our linchpin, Socrates. So we say the full Socratic philosophy is from him. But then we killed him before he was able to pass on everything. So he didn't have mythology, he missed that because we murdered him. So post Socrates, we have Plato. Who created first universities, the academy. So you would study this. Of course, he's in that class of interpreter that has some but misses others. So he has a lot of the dialectic applied to true. He has this, but doesn't have midwifery or dream analysis because we killed him before he was able to master it, and also because Homer had philosophical midwifery and dream analysis in his stories. So he didn't like that because they said, oh, you don't follow Homer, so we're going to kill you, as an excuse for silencing the logos. Because the people in charge, as they do, same as it is true now, have not done midwifery on their problems. So they are a zombie slave to them. Academy, the academy in Athens. Athens. So, that's the academy. And then following Plato, we have teachers or head teachers in the academy. We have Proclus, we've been talking about. Plotinus. So he does so Proclus gives us the elements of theology. So the elements of geometry completely builds the entirety of geometry step by step, giving you a complete system of understanding almost, because there are a couple of axioms you need to bring in from philosophy to begin the game. But it's a fantastic example of understanding. The elements of geometry by Euclid. He wanted to do the elements, so he wanted to do a similar full rational complete system of elements of theology, the metaphysical principles, theology, tied to the Hellenic or Homeric gods. That's Proclus. We also have Plotinus. He was the very poetic one, talking about his Plotinus. He's got a bunch of works you can read about his own experience. His own experiences of experiencing those states of being and stuff. And now we have the final teacher at the academy, Damascius. Damascius. The last teacher. Before the church came and murdered everyone. Boo. So these are the big names. Homer, giving us a background that also had philosophical midwifery and dream analysis. Let's do a different color for that. What color? Let's go. No, not that one. How about this one? Philosophical midwifery and dream analysis. Homer, Achilles in the Iliad, Odysseus and Penelope in the Odyssey. Xenophanes emerging from that tradition. Now we can presume that there were lots of masters of the logos around at that time, but here we have a small snippet from Xenophanes. What is the whole that is seeing, hearing and thinking right now? What is that? In other words, as you look at the differences, you distinguish foreground from background in your vision. You distinguish some sounds from other sounds when you hear stuff. What if you took it as a whole? What's the entirety of experience as a whole? You carry that as a question as you go in everything you do. Xenophanes taught Parmenides, and we have that conversation giving us what's called the greatest book never read. The dialectic approach used to outline all possible stages of thinking, spiritual experience, historical epochs, religious traditions, spiritual traditions. Everything can be put. That's the map. That's the paradigm. Diotima initiated Socrates into the experience of pure being through the yoga of love and logos. How do you get it on most awesomely and divinely? In a way where you can see higher and higher levels of beauty, join with it, add logos to it to develop, to experience beauty itself, and use that as a starting point for the true excellence of the self. So enlightenment is just the beginning. That's Diotima and Parmenides, Socrates a teacher. Then we have the big dog Soc. Post Soc, Plato created the first university, the Academy of Athens, and he had this dialogue. So we have dialogues written by Plato about his teacher Socrates talking to other people, including these two. Following Plato, we have Proclus, who adds much more to metaphysics, the elements of theology. Plotinus. Now, I think Plotinus's writings were from his students, not his own. They were lost or burnt or destroyed. But it's him talking about from his own perspective, I think. Like, what's it like? What's it feel like? And Damascus is the guy we're talking about now. So those are the big three that follow Plato, that follow Socrates, that follow the big two, Parm and Diotima. And Xenophanes is kind of just has a little bit in the background. And of course, Homer is a big one too. Not for the metaphysics in particular, because it's all mythology, but it does give accounts of people going through what we're going through as well. So those are the big, so don't have to be scared. It's just Proclus, Plotinus, and Damascus following Plato. Now we have a division from Plato, which is the cause of our nastiness, our world. Because from Plato we have a full, choose this one. We have the full, that's Aristotle. Aristotle didn't get any of it. Aristotle. So he's a materialist. He rejects everything, even metaphysics. There's just the physical world, bro. And this is the guy, materialist. So, and that's, is a teacher of Alexander the Great, embraced by the church because, again, rejects metaphysics, so you can just believe. That's the Roman tradition. And the Roman, of course, the Christian tradition. That's modern. So if you go to college, you are going to be learning about Aristotle. So it devolves into modern philosophy, or a manyness. Many opinions. So all of prior, it was all just one thing. It's just the thing. A manyness of opinions. That's where we get debate, bros. Debate. Conflict. Ignorance. Or philodoxia, as Socrates calls it, lovers of opinions. I agree with all of my own opinions I got from my family childhood that I've never examined. It says a debate bro, love of opinions, and Philonikos, lover of conflict, drama, fighting, conflict. Okay. Which is used to justify our modern tradition of away from philosophy to instead modernity, which is so materialism gives a somatos, which is love of the body. So see how we've devolved from philosophy, which is love of wisdom, in that tradition. So wisdom, of course, we are playing with as well. We're still wondering about as we read, but so far we are carrying the hypothesis that it's the understanding of this, of being, eternity, your own mind, reality, your self knowing itself as reality, and the experience. The experience itself ain't enough, understanding itself ain't enough. The two together gives you the model of justice, the model of beauty. And of course, in the symposium from Diotima says, hey, if you've been developing a relationship with love and logos, seeing higher and higher levels of beauty in the body, beauty in many bodies, beauty in the soul, beauty in the sciences, beauty in the mind, you will see beauty itself. And from there, you can use this as your model of true excellence, because this is truth or beauty itself, allowing you to develop the true excellence to move up to the self. That's philosophy, love of this. That's why we call what we do philodianoia, because dianoia can actually go beyond, or understanding can reach beyond wisdom. Or Socrates calls this level here philophronesis. The state of self he calls the virtue of phronesis. So, lover of learning, philomathesis, lover of wisdom, philosophia, the self, the state of being self, philophronesis. So if that's wisdom, if that's philosophy, Aristotle says, hey, screw that. Let's just stay down here in the physical world of becoming, with all of our dumb opinions, and we never have to challenge our mummy and daddy and our images of them being saints and the way of being in our house. And I can imitate daddy and be a big strong Noah, and then I can support Trump and support Netanyahu and inflict my injustice on people I have power over. That's the cause of human suffering. So what we've done is trace the lineage of these key figures through history to see how come we're in the state we're in currently. So when you love your physical senses, that's not philosophy, which would be here. That's philosomatos. Wait a minute. So the philosomatos or philokrimatos, I forget. Philokrimatos, love of. No, I didn't spell it right, did I? Just pause for a second. Somatos is body. So what? So, evolving, because again, this is the significance of that class of interpretation where you take a certain parts, advance certain parts like the philosophy part, but if you ignore midwifery and dream analysis, you might have a student like Aristotle who has problems preventing him from even doing philosophy, a pathologos blocking his logos that you can't help him deal with, and therefore it will devolve. So this is the cause of where we are right now. The fall, Aristotle the materialist, into the Roman tradition that we are currently in, or modern philosophy, a manyness of opinions, Kant's opinions, Hegel's opinions, Jordan Peterson's opinions, Ben Shapiro's opinions, and so on and so on. Everyone's opinion is the same, says the establishment Democrats. That's sick. That's stupid. That's also the tradition of Aristotle. So instead of dialectic, we do debate. Instead of bringing people together, we have conflict. Instead of wisdom, we have ignorance. Or philodoxia, love of opinions, and lover of conflict, philonikos. So, if we can't love wisdom, if we don't have an experience of reality that we can fall in love with and spend our life seeking, and therefore want to gain the model of justice, we end up with leaders who don't give two shits about justice. They want to feed their body pleasures. So the Epstein people, or the money people, and the drug people, they're all on drugs. We know this of the politicians and stuff. They're all doing debauched things because they want physical pleasure. And that includes the physical pleasure, as if you know anything about what happened on Epstein Island, torturing people. Or if you know anything about war, torturing people. Or if you know anything about Guantanamo Bay, torturing people. Or if you know anything about ICE and the torture camps in America, torturing people. If you know anything about Israel, torturing people and murdering people. So, sick pleasures, but pleasures of the body. Philosomatos. And you can even separate those into philokrimatos. Excuse my spelling, I don't know how you spell it, but I know how to say it. Krimatos, which is love of money, lover of wealth. Is that a big issue today? And the other version of philosomatos, lover of fame. Whoops, wrong one. Philotimos, lover of Tim. Tim loves you if you're famous. Starfucker, no. Ugh. That's bad.
That's weird that you think that.
It's weird that I said that.
Don't be disgusting.
I won't be, promise. Lover of fame. Is that a big issue? Do politicians currently seek their position for money or for fame? If so, they are in the Aristotelian Roman tradition, devolving from Plato after we murdered Socrates. Lovers of the body, philosomatos. Think of philo's love, of course. Soggy tomatoes. You love a soggy tomato, your flesh sack. And if you cremate those tomatoes into ashes, you have money. Notes. Philokrimatos, lover of cremated tomatoes, lover of wealth. And Timos, from the Timocratic, or lover of fame. Timos has all of the... Tim is the guy who has all of the clicks on Instagram. So if you're a Philotimos, you're a lover of fame. So that's where we are. So that's a historical account of where we are currently. simply by following the big names so we don't get scared. Aristotle is... So 99% of philosophers that you will see on YouTube are Aristotelian. And or Philodoxias, lover of opinions. I don't see anyone else doing this, but we do. Maybe there are a few. Maybe there are a few out there, but there you go. Aristotle. So if we don't... So, Homer, followed by Xenophanes, Parmenides' teacher, followed by Parmenides and Diotima, the lady...
Making ice cream's a good and I'm too pure.
Which is important to say because sexism and misogyny is rife in our world, so it's important to say, yes, Socrates' teacher was a lady. Ooh, they're just as wise as anyone else. Fucking sexists. Some people think that women are just slightly above cattle in how intelligent they are. Insane. And here is a demonstration of someone who's mastered the logos and passed it on to Socrates. So, Homer, Xenophanes, Parmenides and Diotima, the big dog Soc, followed by Plato, who wrote down Soc's conversations, well, certain ones, not all of them, of course. He ignored the midwifery and dream analysis ones, although we do have accounts of him talking about having those conversations in the ones that we have. But Plato didn't want to write that down, of course. Plato created the first universities. From Plato, we have the fall into Aristotle and modernity, opinions, conflict, love of body, love of wealth, love of fame. But following Plato, we have, again in Plato's traditions, lacking midwifery and dream analysis, Proclus, who wrote tons, including his own reviews of the Platonic dialogues, Plotinus, who writes from his own experiences, and Damascus. So those are the... You probably heard these ones up until now, but here is Proclus, Plotinus, and Damascus. Those are the big three. And this is where they fit. So, there you go. Nothing to be scared about. It's really simple. Just there. Following Plato. And then the Dark Ages, where Emperor Justinian said, I'm gonna kill you fuckers, and get into Paul and Aristotle. And everything went terribly. The Dark Ages. So, bit of extra revision. Make it easy. Good it is. Makes sense, doesn't it? Alright. Alright. Where are my dudes? We will need the last philosopher of the Athenian Academy, Damascus, whose teaching at the Academy ended when Christian Emperor Justinian. Fuck that guy.
If you're experiencing mental health, you've been up the
unbelievable sluts these days. Is this good? This dude. Emperor Justinian closed down the schools of philosophy in 529. So we can put that on the board. And that's a nice way of saying that, but murdered the fuckers. Or murdered the good person and was a fucker himself. So Emperor Justinian, this one, Emperor Christian. So that always makes me wonder when I am out in the street and there are these people with their microphones saying, Jesus is good and be Jesus and you'll go to hell if you don't listen to me because I'm so smart because I love Jesus. Do you know that your dude ended philosophy and started the Dark Ages and killed people who thought for themselves? Do you know that? That most of the people here, you killed their spiritual ancestors with your fucking shit? Anyway, there's lots of ways you can criticize religious people and Christians, but here's another one. Christian Emperor. Emperor Justinian. Ended it. Name's too big. Doesn't deserve a big name. Screw you. So, following Plato and then ending. Ending the academy. And bringing in period of history that everything went to shit called the Dark Ages. So again, showing historically beliefs cause problems and suffering and ignorance. Understanding is the light. Dark Ages. Ending the academy, bringing in the Dark Ages, we have Christian Emperor Justinian. Did you learn about that in Sunday school? I don't think so. Wouldn't say so, hey. Sort of goes against the grift, doesn't it? Emperor Justinian. And that's 529. 529? 28? 29. 529 AD. So, there's the lineage. Pretty neat. Of course, the church sides with this Roman tradition in Aristotle, giving us the first and second and third Reichs. That's also the Nazi tradition. Church following, oh yes, you, Hitler, will pass on this tradition of murdering people who do understanding that follows Aristotle and Emperor Justinian. That's the Nazis. Ever heard of the Third Reich? Ever wonder what the First and Second Reichs were? What was this? These bros coming together. So, and that's where we are. So therefore, modern Nazis, the Israelis, and the Americans, and Elon Musk, literal, outspoken Nazis. This is the tradition. Dark Ages. We are still in the Dark Ages. Of the mind characterized by belief in opposition to understanding. But thankfully, we are here for a reason, to wake up and have fun and solve problems, not punishing anyone, understanding through reflection. That's the dialectic. It's what we're here for. Hooray! And all this is in the book. Did I mention this book bangs? What? Stop. Oh, no. Let me do that again. Did I mention this book bangs? Because it does. Holy shit. So, the academy entered when Emperor Fuckface Justinian closed down the schools of philosophy in 529 AD. I've already mentioned that Plato clearly stated that it was through dreams that I received insight into the divine. There we go. Dream analysis. He went on to say that it was through oracles and dreams I was commanded by God to follow my practice. So we'll oracles. Oracles are a little bit more mysterious, but they have foresight, the ability to see things and predict things and intuit things. Oracles and dreams. Commanded by God to follow my practice. So that plays into what our chatter was talking about earlier. Do I end it, or do I have a job to do here? I doubt he's probably stuck around. If you're still around, Mr. Dennis, then this applies to you. Do you have a command from your dreams and even from oracles to follow a certain kind of practice? Socrates calls it, it's like I'm stationed on a tour of duty. I've been posted here to do philosophy. Is it my job to abandon my post? Most importantly, he said it was through dreams one can recover what one does not know about one's past, present, and future. However, he did not, nor did those who follow him, stress the philosophical significance that the role of dreams plays in human destiny. So those who have foresight or that are seeing ability, or a seer or an oracle themselves, they are functioning like the dream master, and the more they get into dream analysis, the more they can surface and perfect their art by bringing their mind to match the mind of the dream master, because dreams have a knowledge or wisdom about our past that causes our problems in the present and can anticipate or predict our future. So, if you're of auricular nature, if you're a prophetic seer, and you love understanding, you might benefit, or you will, everyone benefits, but dream analysis is right up your alley. So, we can all gain that benefit from our dream oracles, our dreams through dream analysis. So that's one of the 4 activities, one of the 2 dropped by Plato, after Socrates. No midwifery, no dream analysis. Achilles did it though, in Homer. That's all the way. Right back here. Dream analysis in Homer. Then after Socrates, we lost it. So philosophy continued until Emperor Fuckface shut everything down and murdered people and burned women at the stake, all that stuff. But we lost dream analysis and midwifery here. Then we fell down here into modernity. Lovely map, lovely map. Through dreams one can recover, says Socrates, what one does not know about one's own past, or present, and future. However, he did not, nor did those who follow him, Plotinus, Proclus, and Damascus in particular, stress these philosophical importance. Remember these 3 mods, just to remind you. These 3, Proclus, Plotinus, Damascus, stress the philosophical significance that the role of dreams plays in human destiny. His understanding adds much to the primary riddles philosophy seeks to understand and experience. Adding more clues about the mystery. Let me just check something real quick. The primary ideas of our philosophy are, here is the title of the thing today. What are the primary... I missed it probably, anyway, it doesn't matter. It's not the stream I care about. The primary ideas of our philosophy are the one, or the good. So that's that higher term, the one self or the good self. The idea of the good, or the brilliant light of being. And the soul. Or the nature of the soul. So the one soul that we are all experiencing aspects of in individual souls. Soul itself, which would be these three spheres. The one or the good, the one or the good. The idea of the good or the brilliant light of being. And to take the physical universe as a whole would be the soul, or the nature of soul. Because soul exists with body. So these are the three ideals, you would say. Or the three highest ideas, the three primary ideas. 1, 2, 3. Thankfully, we already have a picture, because we do good stuff on this channel. We make pictures that are rad. Three primary ideas, the one or the good, the idea of the good or the brilliant light of being, or the soul, or the nature of the soul. The problem, of course, we fully appreciate. For if the one, here is the problem, if the one is beyond all categories or qualities, how is it the source of that which can only be described with superlative categories and qualities? So how can this guy that's above or transcendent and is beyond all qualities, no qualities, how can it be the source of that which is the best qualities? Beauty itself, pure justice, goodness itself, bliss, and etc., etc. How is the highest words and language used to describe this, but how can its source be beyond all qualities? What? How can it be? How can it be now? How can it be now? That's the big puzzle that we hear. That's the philosophical one. That's the big one. Equally, how can that which is the union of all these categories and qualities be the source of that which is fragmented into an innumerable manyness? What? Oh shit, okay, I was a bit... When he said the union of these categories, I thought he meant these categories. Is there a whole of all three of those? Because that would transcend even this. I was freaking out for a minute. But no, he says, these are described with superlative categories. So how can this, which is the whole of all of those categories, be the source of that which is fragmented into the manyness, the many people and puppies and kitties and all the things that we see in the physical world, including dumbass opinions and beliefs and images. So how can this cause this, and how can this cause this, is what Socrates is pointing to as big mysteries. Big mysteries! Dramatic zoom. So, only be described with superlative categories and qualities. Oops. So the one beyond all categories can describe that which is the superlative categories, and how can that be which is the union of all those categories and qualities? Yeah, that's the thing. Be the source of that which is fragmented into an innumerable manyness. Now, add to that the idea in our philosophy that there can be a return from that manyness into the one.
The primary purpose
their secret. Bless you.
Excuse you. Bless you. Bless you. Bless you. Bless you.
That's the big one. We can return. There can be a return from the manyness into the one, to the one. The philosophical quest for each soul, here we go, the meaning of life, is to make the journey to that source of all sources. The effort to render some... So here's meaning of life, we might as well put it in a highlight. The effort to render some rational account of these problems is one of the goals of philosophy. It is not just for cleaning up metaphysical problems, because this kind of reflection is the meditation. Wow. Wow. That leads to the doorway of the spiritual vision. Holy fuck. Did I mention this book bangs? So, he's outlined the meaning of life for the soul to make the journey through those stages. From the manyness as a small being and a soul, to the soul itself, to see that it has a cause, to see this not just as its aspects or parts, but as the whole, and then realize this has a source that transcends qualities. To return to the source of being and manyness. There we go, as the meaning of life. How do we do it? Well, we have to discover the questions or puzzles. The effort to render a rational account of these problems is the goal. So get their puzzles. And that's not just for cleaning up metaphysical problems, because this kind of reflection that the best chat followers in the world and the best YouTube and Twitch followers and the best channel, the best people do is the meditation. It's the doorway to, oops, where's Socrates? It's the doorway to the spiritual vision. So what are we doing? Putting an effort to give a rational account of these questions, which includes drawing pictures on the board from the text. All of this is from the text, none of it's personal interpretation or beliefs. From the text that reflects the logos, bringing it together in diagrams, talking about it on here with friends and on Discord. So to find the puzzles, these big ones, to give a rational account of them. What's the rational account? That's the dialectic. The use of reason is the self-logos or understanding through time. That is itself a meditation. To be focused on these questions and to be using our understanding in giving an account of them and giving account of our possible answers, that's also the meditation. So not only is it an understanding of everything here, the highest use in time, it's also a meditation, which is the doorway to those experiences here and here, making us the ideal woman, Penelope, or the ideal man, Hercules, who has that state of phronesis or self, functions ideally with this state of mind and in the physical world through the dialectic too. So to be most justly and in the zone, most appropriately relating to the shadows and Hades, pathologos, while keeping the state of mind, feasting with the gods in heaven, recognizing that yourself is experiencing both, while itself transcending experiences and being the source of experience. And what we just read, the philosophical quest.
I'm someone to share in an adventure.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Wizard Harry, so that's the hero's journey quest. But the philosophical quest for each soul is to go there. Or through the dialectic or Hermes, the anagogic triad of Apollo reading and Aphrodite, bringing it together into these wholes. Hermes allows us to reach Zeus, who functions most ideally through this kind of wisdom for all living and non-living beings. Pretty neat, huh? It's meditation, it's learning, it's the meaning of life, it's the self, it's the source, and it's the return. Says Socrates in this book. Did I mention this book? Bangs? Have you ever heard of a book that bangs like this? Have you? I think not. Oh my god. So, holy fuck, what a conclusion. See it again? The primary ideas are the one or the good, the brilliant light of being or the idea of the good, and the soul or the nature of soul itself. The puzzle, of course, is how can the one being beyond all qualities or categories be the source of that which is only described in the highest positive superlative categories and qualities? Metaphysics. How can that be? And equally, how can that ultimate thing be the source of that which is fragmented? If this is a union of all of these best qualities, how the fuck does it create everything fragmented into our physical world? What a puzzle! 2 puzzles! Holy fuck! Adding to that, we can return. How can there be a return? Or there is a return from the manyness to the one. Therefore, our purpose or philosophical quest is to make that hero's journey from the fragmented manyness of individual souls and to be wrapped up in shades of opinions and beliefs to the source of all sources. The effort to make a rational account of these problems is one of the goals of philosophy. Not just for an academic exercise, like at college. No, fuck that. The reflection on these puzzles, giving a rational account and using the dialectic to understand them, is also the meditation that leads to the doorway of the physical vision. Doorway. There needs to be some sort of letting go or jump. At each level, from understanding to knowing, or from belief to understanding, of course, what we are also reading about as we go is that prior to that doorway from belief to understanding, there are all these human responses to trying to save the old, but eventually you're going to have to go through that doorway, son, and give up your old beliefs if you want to be a good person or fulfill your purpose here. So, development of beliefs. Hey, are you going to take a certain part like Plato or all of it? You're going to do dream analysis and midwifery too? You're going to take a piece? You're going to pretend to be doing the old, like a wolf in sheep's clothing? Or you're going to be a fascist Nazi loyal to the ignorance you grew up with? We call that a Nazi dog, because a dog is blindly loyal without questioning who he's loyal to. So that's the negative. Dogs are otherwise awesome. So eventually you're going to take the whole, and that's going to be a doorway to understanding, just as the dialectic is a doorway, or you could, as we've been talking about today, meditation and understanding of being, metaphysics, bringing you to the doorway of the spiritual vision. Then you jump or let go. To quote our friend in chat, do you let go? Yes, sometimes they call it a jump, sometimes they call it letting go, maybe both. Because that's a cognitive function different from understanding, because you're not seeing it as differences through time or as parts, you're seeing it as a whole. And equally so, you can progress through here to see this as a whole, the doorway of the brilliant light of being, seeing the brilliant light of being as a doorway to the self, to be truly immortal and a friend of a god, of the gods, as any man can be, which is the source. And of course, as we saw from Proclus's metaphysics, which brings together philosophy and theology. Apollo focuses on the source of all, so we realize when we reach that source of all, by turning towards a higher mode of being, we can complete our philosophical journey. That's done through, so that's the activity. You got to have some fun and love to be inspired to do it. It's Aphrodite. And the skill you master is Hermes, which is the dialectic, which takes you through those other triads to Zeus. Zeus is the source of all, guided by divine wisdom, who also has a functioning that takes care of all living and non-living beings. So you are knowing and showing the self, being your authentic self, functioning most ideally for all living or non-living beings, meaning like Hercules, you're also functioning ideally in Hades, while having your mind in being and yourself as Zeus, the source of it all. The source which is independent and transcends. That's the purpose, that's the meaning of life, and that's here it is in one paragraph. Holy fuck, have you read a paragraph like this before? The philosophical quest is for each soul to make that journey to the source of all sources. The effort to render some rational account of these problems is the goal of philosophy. It's not just cleaning up metaphysical problems like a wankery at some academic institution. No, this kind of reflection is the meditation. The dialectic, therefore, is the doorway to the spiritual vision itself. It's therefore the quest or meaning of life, a return to the source. It's understanding and learning. It allows us to remove problems. It's also the spiritual method. It's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win.
A win-win-win-win. A win-win-win-win. A win-win-win-win. A win-win-win-win. A win-win-win-win.
Did I mention the book bangs? Because it fucking does. Holy shit. Anyway. Awesome. What a conclusion once again. Thank you for joining me. You can follow along on Twitch or YouTube. You can join the Discord. You'll get a notification when we go live, and you can share your work or puzzles with friends there. If you want to donate to the channel, that is greatly appreciated. There's a link below. You can even find a PDF link to the text that you can borrow online for free. And you can buy the book too. It bangs. I recommend it. I give it 10 out of 10. I give it 5 stars. Thank you for joining me, and check out my music if you want to talk more and listen to some tunes and help me get good at music streaming. Jed Phoenix Music on Twitch. And I appreciate you for being here, because you're doing the good stuff, doing the good work. And I'll see you in the next one.